you'll never sell the way in which those salesy and slimy people have sold, because as entrepreneurs, especially in a service-based industry, we care. And that's the money exchange. When you're selling your offer, it's because you care and you want to change someone's life. Therefore, it will never feel salesy. So again, it's just having a conversation with somebody and letting them know your service, your offer can change their life.
Welcome to Marketing and Mindset for Wellness Coaches, the podcast for health coaches and wellness entrepreneurs just like you who are building a business, making the world a healthier place, and designing a first-class life. I'm your host, Kim Foster, MD and certified business coach, and I'm on a mission to help you up-level your strategy and raise your mindset so you can truly thrive and grow your business. Let's get started. If you are uncomfortable with sales because it feels pushy and gross and would love a more authentic approach to sales, then you are going to love today's episode. My guest today is Michelle Hartzman, and Michelle is a true believer that sales do not have to be slimy or icky or uncomfortable. What you'll hear in our conversation today are some actionable tips on how to master authentic sales without selling, and how to sell out your products and services, whether that looks like an online course or a digital product or a service-based offer. Michelle also has lots of wisdom to share and some tangible tips on how to show up as your authentic self and build your tribe of engaged clients. So without further ado, let's jump right in. All right, today I am very excited to be chatting with Michelle Hartzman, who is a multiple six-figure business coach and a sales and visibility expert. She helps female entrepreneurs to stand out online and create sustainable income and own who they are and grow to six figures and beyond, which all sounds pretty awesome to me. So welcome to the podcast, Michelle. It is great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Kim. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I am excited to learn from you and talk especially about sales, specifically how to sell with ease and not feel salesy, because I know that this is definitely a real challenge for many of my listeners. However, before we get into all that, I would love to learn just a little bit more about you. So can you tell us a bit more about, what you do now, who you help, all those good things?
Yeah, so my name's Michelle. As you guys know, I've been in the online space almost 5 years now, which is wild to say. It goes really fast. And I am an online business coach. I help lots of health and wellness professionals, but also other types of business owners grow and scale online. A big proponent of what I do with my clients is really create sustainability through their income. I am all about women creating true wealth, being able to buy your first home, being able to have full savings accounts, being able to make financial decisions on your own. It was something that I didn't have growing up. And so it became a big passion of mine, especially as a women-owned business that now helps women entrepreneurs. It's a true passion of mine to see and help online entrepreneurs grow and scale, but more importantly, not just make money, but have money in the online space.
I love that. That's amazing. I totally agree. I mean, I share that passion absolutely because, of course, like money brings freedom to do all those things that you exactly described. So that's amazing. I love it. And tell me, how did you end up here? Like, what was just a little bit of the journey that brought you to this work that you're doing now and have been doing for the last 5 years?
Yeah. So long story short, I actually started in the online space as a health and wellness coach, which I love talking to my health and wellness professionals because I think there's a stigma in the online space that like only quote unquote business coaches can make real money. And I just want to elaborate on that for a moment, that you can make six figures, multiple six figures, tons of money being in the health and wellness space. And it's such a needed industry. And I was in that for about 2 years until I became a business coach. And so being in the online space as the health and wellness professional, my business grew very rapidly. And what started to happen were a lot of health and wellness coaches started seeking me out for help. It was, how did you do that? How did you become successful? How are you selling? How does it feel so good? Can you teach me? While I also have a background in business, it was a very unique and cohesive kind of blend where I transitioned over into the business coaching world. And now it's just this beautiful dynamic that has happened where I get to help more coaches, more entrepreneurs grow, and more people get help.
That's awesome. I love that. Yes. And I love that you come from that health and wellness background too. So you will definitely, know what, most of my listeners are struggling with. But I agree totally. Like that whole myth that you can't make money in wellness. I mean, I spend a lot of time trying to dispel that myth because it's a pervasive belief out there.
Yeah, it kind of boggles my mind when I hear clients say, well, I'm not a business coach. I'm like, no one's asking you to be.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
always going to be people that pay for their health and wellness. I honestly think it's one of the most important industries, and so really looking at your business as something that can fund your life is really that first step.
I agree. And you're totally right. I mean, there are always going to be people who are wanting and willing and eager to pay and invest in their own health and wellness. And I think that that's only getting, more obvious and just growing in awareness now. I don't know if you've seen that too, but that's definitely what I've seen.
For sure, especially since, the pandemic,
Yeah.
that we all realize how important health is, and it's something that's never going anywhere. People will always need to invest in their health because there's that accountability factor, and there's just so much that Gen Pop doesn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right. And I mean, will everybody see the value? No. Do you need all the people as your clients? No, of course not. So, yeah, anyway, well, okay, I'm sure we'll get into that more, but I would love to kind of talk about sales a little bit. I know that you use the term authentic selling, and I would love to just start there. Can you describe what authentic selling means to you?
Yeah. So, in simplest terms, sales is just a conversation. And I think as business owners, the moment you decide to become a business owner, I want to spill the beans for you. You just decided to become a salesperson
Yeah.
because as business owners, we are required to make sales to make money. And the quicker we can acknowledge that and own that, the sooner sales will start feeling simpler, but also you'll realize it's just part of your job, and taking that part of your job and how can you make that feel so good? And that's just talking to people. At the end of the day, when it comes to someone buying our service, we're really just seeing if they have the problem that we solve. And then in exchange, we're telling them how much it costs and they pay us to solve their problem.
Yeah, I love putting that in such simple terms. And yeah, agreed. Like it's just a matter of owning that that is part of your job, and because there's so much resistance around that, right?
Yeah, because sales get a bad rep, right? You go to
Mhm.
a used car show or, the DMV and you look at that used carsman sales tactic. And I think that's the biggest thing. If anyone gets anything from today, it's really realizing that you'll never sell the way in which those salesy and slimy people have sold. Because as entrepreneurs, especially in a service-based industry, we care. And that's the money exchange. When you're selling your offer, it's because you care and you want to change someone's life. Therefore, it will never feel salesy. So again, it's just having a conversation with somebody and letting them know your service, your offer can change their life.
Oh, of course it can. Yeah. So, yeah, I love that it's not about like selling, it's just having the conversation, and yeah, it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. But yeah, let's talk about because I love that whole mindset. Like the mindset's got to come first, right? Like you have to adopt that more empowered mindset around that sales is not being pushy or icky or gross or a used car salesman or any of that stuff. So from there, tell me how can people start to kind of let go and start to show up to in their sales conversations in a really authentic way.
Yeah, I think the first thing is realizing that you're not taking from people. I think for some reason, when we have this notion that selling feels salesy or icky or weird or it doesn't feel easy, it feels robotic, that for some reason, when we bring up the investment or when somebody even pays us, if it gets that far, we're then taking from them. But we have to remember, even though we're online business owners, or even if you're working with clients in person, you're providing a service. Therefore, there's compensation for it. And something I always like to say to my clients is you're never going to go into a store like Lululemon, put the Align pants on your body and walk out without paying, right? So
Yes.
the sooner you realize you're doing the same thing as Lululemon, you're providing something that has your potential client feeling really good, they're going to pay for that service in order to get a certain result.
Oh, that's exactly it. And I do agree. I think that that's so true. Like people have this feeling that they're taking money, which of course nobody wants to take anybody else's money, but it's really like reminding yourself. And I think it requires a lot of constant reminding is that it's an exchange. You're giving them something, they're paying for that something. And of course that something is like changing their life, of course. So it's a good exchange.
Yeah, exactly. Because money commits too. And I think that's something important to remember in sales is even if you were to take on 5 clients for free, the level of commitment would probably be subpar, if any. And so when your clients do invest in you, when there is an actual sales transaction of money, your clients will show up more. So not selling is actually doing our clients and potential clients a disservice.
Yeah, it's very true. You're in a sense you're kind of robbing them of the opportunity to invest in themselves in this way if you don't give them that chance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I love all of that. So then what are some practical steps, like some things that a person can do if they're like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. I can start to work on stepping into that mindset. But then from there, what are some other strategies or tips that you have for people to improve their sales?
Yeah. So when it comes to selling on social, the biggest thing I will say is clarity around every single one of your offers. If you know what you're selling like by the back of your hand and you can just have a conversation with your mom about it and your mom can understand your service in the simplest plain terms, I want you to sell it from that place. We get really caught up in like all the bells and whistles and proving ourselves, and you get all of these things when you work with me, but your consumers really just need the basics, and all they need to know really when whether you're promoting publicly and or selling in the DMs and or selling on a sales call is they need to know that 1, you can solve their problem, and 2, you have the solution, and 3, you can get them the results that they desire. So taking those 3 components and bringing them out in your sales process in all areas when you're publicly promoting, in your written content, in your reels, and then in your sales conversations.
Yeah, I think that that's so important to really just be able to know exactly what it is and the benefits too. Do you find that that's an important thing to just really be able to clearly convey the benefits?
For sure. More than ever, especially like we're not past the pandemic, but we're definitely in a different season than we were last year in 2020. More than ever, consumers, if we look at consumer trends, they're purchasing based off of desire. So when you're marketing and selling your offers, if you can be so clear and concise on the result and the feeling that that potential client will get, they will invest so much quicker. They will apply, they will reach out and have questions versus just putting something out there that says you get all of these things. Here's the Zoom, here's the Voxer. We want to know the actual result and how we're going to feel, and we're buying based off of desire.
That's great. I love that. I'd love to like unpack that a little bit more about that buying from desire part of things, because I think that we all so many coaches especially get really caught up in their process in talking about the features and what's included and all of those kinds of things. But tell me a little bit more about that buying from desire piece.
Yeah. So I don't want to say that features don't matter, because they do, and your people want to know that they are there. People will ask you on sales calls in the DMs, when they message, when they ask questions, they will literally say, so what do I get? And what they're actually asking is, what's the result? So us as the seller, we have to be mindful the way in which we answer that. When somebody asks, what do I get? They're not asking how many calls, how much can I talk to you, how often do you show up in the program? What they're asking is, what is my life going to look like in 3 months after this program ends? That's what that question means. What do I get? They want to know how their life has changed. And then you can tell them all the bells and whistles, but really being mindful of what's the transformation and what's the result, because that's what's going to sell the offer in your sales conversations and in your marketing.
Yeah, I totally agree. What's your perspective on I know that there's, people talk about selling like an aspiration or a goal as the endpoint versus emphasizing like the problem solved or the pain or the frustration. You know what I mean? Like the difference between just like the goal versus the pain. What's your perspective on that?
My perspective is that people buy on feeling.
Mm.
If people know they're going to feel better and their life will change, they'll purchase. And yeah, I think with the goal in mind, right? They're going to buy based off of a feeling that my life, my business, my wellness will get better. And I'm on the way to reaching that goal that I desire.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I think that that's true, that people buy based on feeling, even if they're not necessarily articulating it and they wouldn't necessarily come straight out and say it, but that's it's a huge part of the buying process.
Oh, yeah. Here's the thing. If I want to weigh 120 pounds, it's less about me weighing 120 pounds and it's more about me feeling the way I want to actually feel at 120 pounds, right? That's why we fixate on numbers, because we think those numbers are going to give us a certain feeling, but it's the feeling behind the number that we want to focus on inside of our marketing and when we're selling, because that's ultimately why they'll buy.
Yeah. And that's the truth of what a person is really, is going to motivate them. I think it's so key to really get to that truth, because that's going to be different for different people, right?
Exactly. And something that I teach my clients to do that I don't see talked about a lot in the online space when it comes to sales is, if you're in a place right now and you're like, I'm not exactly sure why my people are buying, I challenge you to ask them, because they'll tell you exactly what it was that you said or that you did, or the way in which you made them feel as to why they bought, and then take that and compound it in everything that you do.
That's super smart. I love that.
Yeah, in sales, like sales 101, if people have already bought the thing, they will tell you why they bought the thing. And then we want to just keep doing that. So then more dream clients like those people come in, because if we know that it worked, right? 1 or 2 or 5 people bought, and then maybe things feel quiet. Maybe we switch things, or maybe we pivoted our messaging. That's like, why isn't this really translating as well? Ask your people why they bought, document it, and keep doing those things. Obviously elaborating if your message changes, but really compounding what's working versus trying to meet the masses and doing what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that many people talk about that. I mean, certainly I've seen the advice and heard the advice many times about find out why people didn't. Like, doing a check-in with people. If you do a launch, then you circle back to the people who showed some interest but didn't actually buy, and ask them, what it was that stopped them from buying. But I think that the flip side of that could actually be a lot more effective, like to ask people why they did buy.
Exactly. And your clients want to tell you, like,
Yeah.
and I think that's an easier conversation to have with somebody that did buy than somebody that didn't.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a lot. Sometimes I think that comes across kind of needy and awkward to ask people why they didn't buy. But it's more celebratory if you're asking people who did purchase and did make that investment. Like, what was it that made the shift for you?
Exactly. And especially when it's those dream clients, we all have them where you're like, I wish I could just bottle you up and like, duplicate you. Like, so really speak to those people, because they came forward for a certain reason. It was something you did. It was something you said. It was something about your energy. We want to take that and we want to compound that. And you'll be amazed. I promise you'll be amazed at what happens in your sales when you actually understand why people are buying from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. I'd love to know if you've got some suggestions for people who just really feel uncomfortable while selling. Like in those like we're talking about sales conversations, and I know that there's some listeners who are starting to sweat, right? And they're thinking about just the sales conversation. Like, do you have some strategies for feeling more comfortable with those conversations?
Yeah, I wish I could sit here and say, like, do this one thing and it will change everything, but I'd be lying. And so, honestly, when it comes to sales, just like in the gym, it's putting in the reps. Like, when I first started, almost 5 years ago now, I still remember my first sales call. I think I wanted to pee my pants. That was it was one of the scariest things I ever did, and I will never forget that feeling. But here I am 5 years later teaching people on sales. And so there is something to be said about consistency and doing things over and over again. And just like anything, we will become better at it. So the more you fear sales, the more you avoid them, the more you're actually just causing frustration because you're staying in the comfort zone and you're not making the money you desire. So my challenge for you is allowing yourself to be uncomfortable and just go out there and sell. And if you mess it up, try it again. And if it still feels awkward, try it again, because eventually you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I can actually sell.
Yes. Oh, 100%. It's all about like feel the fear and do it anyway. You just kind of have to make yourself do it in the beginning, and then promises you will definitely get like more and more comfortable as you go, right? And so that's just so key. And also I think, in there I heard too, like that abundance mindset. I think that that's really important too, because if, like if you mess up your first few sales calls, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Those were not the only potential clients that are ever going to come to you, although it can certainly feel like that in the beginning. And I think that that's what keeps people in that fear zone.
Correct. And I think it's really important to normalize no's. Like I still get no's. I'm sure Kim still
Yeah.
gets no's.
Yep.
We all get no's, but that also doesn't mean that you're bad at sales. Some people we have sales conversation with. That's why we have sales conversations. We're screening people to see if they're a good fit. And we also get to decide from that sales conversation if we want to invite them into our offer. So I also invite you to really take your power back in selling. It's not all just up to the consumer, and it's not all up to just how you facilitate the sales call. It's really just a sales conversation, and you and that potential client get to decide together if it's a good fit or not. But if someone says no, that doesn't mean you suck at sales.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's about figuring out if this is a right fit, and it definitely won't always be, even if you're super skilled and super comfortable at sales. If it's just not a fit, then it's going to end up being a no.
Exactly. And something I always like to just plug into my mind that's helped me since year one is if not them, somebody better. And that's just the truth. Like, even if you get 10 no's in a row, a yes will come if you keep going.
Oh, staying persistent, stay in the game, keep working at it, keep going. Yeah, not getting discouraged. I mean, that's a key thing too. I'm wondering if you have any other like myths or misconceptions about sales that, people tend to believe that we can dispel.
Yeah. So myths as far as sales go, especially in the online space, I think a big one is that like sales scripts are necessary to like follow verbatim in order to make a sale. I know I thought that when I first got into the industry. Something I will say about sales scripts, I'm sure at some points, people listening have been given a script of some sort. My advice would be to take that and create it as your own, make it as unique to you with your own verbiage, your own words, because at the end of the day, you can have every sales script, but if it doesn't sound like you, it's not going to convert. So I think that's a big thing to just be mindful of. The perfect sales script won't make you good at sales. Inserting you into the sales process will.
Yeah, I love that. And that's where that authenticity piece comes into things too, right? Like you can't just read a sales script, no matter how brilliant it might be. If it's just not you, it's not going to fly.
Correct. Because your consumers, they also buy off of trust, and they can feel that. They can feel if you're in it, like your tonality, your energy, your confidence through your voice matters throughout that sales process.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. So tell me, what are some action steps that people can take? What can a listener do right now to kind of put some of these ideas into motion?
Yeah, as far as action steps, the first thing that's coming to me is if you haven't talked about your offer in the last 24 hours, go talk about it.
That's great. I like that a lot. That's good.
I think we get sick of ourselves when we're selling because we have this stigma around sales. We're like, well, I talked about my offer on Monday and it's like Wednesday. If you want more people to buy, we just need to hear it more. And, there's a statistic that you may or may not have heard that people need to hear the same thing 7 to 8 times. And I believe it's like 15 to 20 times. People need to hear things repetitively. So I just want to remind you that we're not sick of you. I just need to hear you say it again.
Yeah, that is such a good reminder because it's true. And I think that also, especially if somebody is already feeling worried about being salesy and pushy, then that's just going to feed into that if they feel like they're just bombarding people with that same message. But yes, you're right. Like people just don't hear it all. They don't see it. It'd just be like that one last straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing. Like that one time that you said it in just that way. And they're like, oh, actually, that sounds amazing.
Exactly. So I always like to say to my clients, like, finish the launch, send the last email, like put out that last post, because people always come at the last minute of things. And the last thing I would want for anyone listening is to cut themselves short, whether it be in a launch or just the selling of one-to-one, and kind of be hiding behind the scenes, barely talking about their offer, because had they just talked about it more, chances are more spots would have filled.
Oh my God. That's such a good reminder. And that's super timely for me too, because I am like, tomorrow is the last day of a big launch for me. And so I am like tired of hearing myself talking about this. And, of course, like I get in my own head about like, God, people are so fed up of hearing me talk about this. They're like, can she just end this launch already? And so we can get back to regular programming. But yeah, like so I'm already feeling that like temptation to just be like, do I really need to send that last like cart closing email? Do I really, like, people must know by now, but I think you're totally right. So I'm just going to take that advice and run with it.
Yeah. And here's the thing, people do know, but people wait. If they have the ability to wait, they will wait. I was just having a conversation with a client about this today. When we give people a certain timeline, let's say we're in a 2-week public launch, they have 2 weeks to decide, especially if they know the investment. Let's say it's on the sales page, it's in the emails, it's in our content. They will sit and decide up until that last minute. And that's why finishing things and sending the email, putting out the last post, putting the timer countdown, that's why that all is really effective, because it gives people a reason to finally move.
Yeah, I know. It's so true. I've seen that happen time and time again, is that people, I mean, there's the early deciders and the quick start people who jump in on right at the beginning, but then there are definitely always most people, right down to the wire. So it's such a great reminder. And yeah, I love that piece of advice too.
Exactly. We're all different buyers too. And I think that's just something to be mindful of, is like you have so many different types of buyers in your community. And every part of the launch, every part of the process of whatever it is that we're selling is going to call in different types of buyers.
Yeah, it's true. And so it's more a matter of like meeting people where they're at, right? Like, and just putting yourself out there continuously so that people can have their own experience and their own journey towards working with you.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, we are just about out of time, Michelle, but this has been so terrific. You've been super generous with all of your tips and ideas, and I really appreciate it. But before we go, tell me where our listeners can go to learn more about you and connect with you and all those good things.
Yes, I'm super easy to find. You can friend me, message me on Instagram over at Michelle Hartzman. We'll chat it up. And then I also have a podcast as well, so you can listen to me on Heart to Heart on Apple and Spotify, all things business and growth and scaling.
Oh, I love it. Okay, that's great. And I will link all that stuff in the show notes too, to make it nice and easy for people to find you and connect with you. And yes, thank you so much, Michelle. This has been awesome.
Thank you so much for having me, Kim. I appreciate it.
So after listening to that conversation, I would love to know your thoughts. How are you feeling about sales? My hope is that you're feeling more empowered, more confident, and ready to get out there and sell your services, because what you have to offer is powerful. Always remember that. You are here to change lives, and I am so excited to help bring you one step closer to that. Let me know your thoughts on all this by heading over to Instagram and tagging me in a post or in a story or sending me a DM. Okay, that brings us to the end of this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that it helped you. Now, if you haven't taken a minute to rate and review this podcast yet, I would love you forever if you'd take a minute just to do that right now. It just takes a sec, but it makes a big difference to me. Okay, as always, have an amazing week, and I will talk to you again very soon. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Now, if you enjoyed this episode and you're excited to take your coaching business to the next level, then I would love to invite you to attend my free online class called How to Build a Six-Figure Health Coaching Business Using One Signature Program. And that's even if you're a brand new coach. I will be revealing the 3 behind-the-scenes secrets to financial freedom without exhaustion, burnout, or being a slave to social media. In this free class, you'll learn the exact blueprint to having the impact and life you desire, even if you're not sure how to make it happen right now. I'll also tell you about the single biggest mistake new health and wellness coaches make and what to do instead. And I'll be teaching you exactly how to design a signature program step by step, including how to price your offer. And yes, I give you real numbers. To attend this class, all you have to do is sign up at drkimfoster.com/6figures and reserve your seat for free. I will see you there.